Hey, there we are. Welcome in. This is Locked On Eagles Squad podcast. Got so much to get into, including the Tush Push staying, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be a parade down Broad Street of just Tush Pushes. That's what's going to go down. That's Harry Mays. That's Jason Martinez. I'm Mark Farzetta. This is Locked On Eagles Squad podcast. We'll be right back after this open.
Fly, Eagles, fly. It's the Eagles Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Philadelphia Eagles every week, covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the city of brotherly love, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Eagles Squad show starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Check it out. The Eagles putting out on social media, push on after the NFL owners meetings in Minnesota do not come up with enough votes to ban the Tush Push. According to Adam Schefter, final vote of proposed ban for the Tush Push per sources, 22-10. So sorry. You know what they needed? They needed a Tush Push to push it across. Just 2 more votes, and it would have gone down. It did not go down that way, fellas. We live in a Tush Push society still.
I'm happy about it. I brought some props in honor of the Tush Push remaining. First of all, because the Tush Push days, I got my extra strength 5-hour energy to bring the alacrity on the program. And because they did the right thing, I got the old CCM twig out, and I'm giving them stick taps here.
Oh.
Stick taps to keep the Tush Push. CCM
Ultimate
twig
sign.
right here.
Ultimate sign of respect. Ultimate sign of respect right there.
Well,
Yeah,
I've always
thank
been
you,
a Tushman, a fan of the Tush, and the more you can push the Tush, the better it is for everybody. And great job on the yes, push it real good. Good job on the Eagles social media people, because they include that photo, and they were playing the Packers, who of course were the impetus organization for this nonsense, and it's going to make that game on Monday night after the bye week even more interesting now. 22-10, maybe that's a foreshadowing of the final score.
Yeah, and a Tush Push to go ahead touchdown.
Right. I think they should run it on the first play, the second play, the third play, and the fourth play, and just convert a first down by 2.5 yards a pop.
Solely on the Tush Push.
Yeah.
By the way, Billy Gibbons will be appearing at that game,
right,
to sing the halftime entertainment of Tush.
I had a phenomenal suggestion by a viewer and a listener of my show, My Daily Pod, and it's they said the April, got to give her credit. She said, while we're talking about player safety and pace of play, I think we should ban leaping into the stands after a touchdown.
Yeah, the Lambeau leap, as they call it, right?
We should ban it. We should ban it. That's not safe.
Right.
And they're taking forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
I agree. The Latin Inferno says the Eagles defeated the Packers 22-10 last year in the wild card.
That's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Foreshadowing.
How about that?
Good job, Latin Inferno.
Serendipitous, I believe is what that is. I believe that would be. But we talked about this. I think, Jason, you said it stays. Harry, you said it would go. I think you and I, Harry, said it would go. Or did you say it would stay?
No, I said it would go. And then I put out earlier this morning, Diana Rossini had information that she's been told that the Tush Push will be banned. So apparently she had bad information.
Good. I love when reporters are wrong.
Yeah.
The Eagles the Eagles sent Jason Kelce, who was just in Philadelphia for, I think, Mike Quick's golf outing, just sent him out to Minnesota to lobby for the Tush Push to stay. So Jason Kelce went out there, and I guess the man still has some sway, not just on podcast networks, or commercials, but also still with the NFL, and he apparently lobbied for it to stay. And here we are, gentlemen, still in the Tush Push era of the Philadelphia Eagles. And look, put it this way. I thought it was going to be gone. And Jason, I think I have that right, that you thought it was going to stay.
Yeah, I did.
Everyone was saying it was going to go. And people were given the attitude of, you might not believe this, but they're going to whip up enough votes in order to ban this. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me, but these people seem pretty confident. I'm going to go with them. And Adam Schefter was one of those guys, a lot of the national guys that are certainly more close to the other NFL teams around the league, obviously. And I'm listening, I'm like, wow, this seems like it wouldn't make any damn sense to ban it. So seeing that it is going to stay, and seeing that the Eagles have spiked the metaphorical football with their own social media post about it, I have to say justice prevailed, gentlemen, because you really can't ban this play and can't make an argument to ban the play unless the argument is, I just don't like it. It's like, when you're young and you tell your parents, why can't I do it? They're like, because I said so. Like, that's not an argument, but that's the rule. That's the ruling.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to go along the lines of your parents telling you because I said so. It didn't make any sense. It's a safe play. No one's been hurt. It doesn't stop pace of play. It doesn't halt pace of play. The rugby play, you can make a lot of arguments about football and the plays that look like rugby. Justice prevailed. I give credit to the NFL for that, at least.
Yeah, you can't ban the play just because one team's good at it and nobody else really has seemed to be able to master it, even though Buffalo apparently has run it a few times and with some success. But you talk about Jason Kelce going out there to the owners' meetings. I saw a tweet from Jimmy Kempski 2 hours ago that he quote tweeted that with an episode from Kelsey's podcast, I guess, where they were talking about him going out there. And he goes, for context, this is Kempski now, during the owners' meetings in March, Bills co-owner Terry Pegula reportedly fabricated some idea that Jason Kelce retired because of the tush push. Now, I had never known that before. Is that amazing or what?
I never heard that either.
That's interesting. That a co-owner would go to the lengths of lying and creating just some false narrative to try to get rid of this
Hall
play.
Of Famer?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to put the thought out there. That's the old Roger Clemens line. How do you disprove a negative? Like once you put the thought out there in somebody's head that this could have happened, even though it's based in no reality, now I'm thinking of it as Jason Kelce. Even though there's no evidence to support, maybe he did call it quits. Maybe that's what took him so long after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff loss to consider whether or not he should come back to the NFL.
If that was the case, the Eagles would have voted against it. They lost a Hall of Fame center because of the play. And I imagine they wouldn't run it anymore. As Captain Jack Ross once said in A Few Good Men, these are the facts of the case, and they are not disputed. The fact of the matter is it doesn't cause injury because it hasn't caused injury. And I'm glad to see that, the NFL owners and the people voting on this didn't think they were Nostradamus and predicting that it would cause injury in the future. Yeah. If it hasn't yet, maybe it will, and we'll deal with that when it does. But it hasn't yet. Right. So you can't vote against it based on your gut feeling that someday it probably will. Well, someday we'll all probably die. Okay.
No, not probably. That's for sure.
We're all going.
It's a guarantee.
And wasn't that Kevin? That was Kevin Bacon's character, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Okay. He was the prosecutor, Captain Jack Ross.
Yeah. He had that big binder.
That and taxes.
You're a really lousy softball player, Jack.
Hold on, guys. This is just crazy. All right. I follow, for the record, a number of news outlets, but I just got the notification. This made CNN.
Are you serious? They'll do anything for ratings.
Maybe literally a notification for the first time.
From CNN. The tush push stays. The NFL NFL owners reportedly decide to ban the controversial tush, or not to ban the controversial tush push play, a play used exclusively by the Philadelphia Eagles. That's fake news, CNN.
Yeah,
that right there is fake news. It's not exclusively used by the Eagles. Come on.
Jordan Mailata doesn't like the name tush push either, and I kind of agree with him.
Yes. It hasn't come out yet, and during the media circuit after the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts was asked about this play a number of times, but just about every show he was on. And he goes, well, they call it what they call it, but I don't call it that. Mm-hmm. And then people would say, well, what do you call it? And he'd be like, I'm not going to say what we call it. And I'm like, what? I am on, fellas, I'm dying to know what Jalen Hurts calls in the huddle when they're about to run that play. Yeah. I'm sure it's something far more technical and not nearly as catchy. It's not even brotherly shove. It's not QB sneak. It's got to be something else.
Spider 2Y banana.
It's something like that. Probably. But I didn't expect to feel as excited about this play sticking around. And it's not like I even love this play. It's just about the Eagles being right.
Yeah.
And for the people that were following. And for the right, they're already 1-0 before the 2025 season starts. But I just look at it as it made no sense. How many times do you take an L as a Philadelphia sports fan when it just doesn't make any sense? How many times, Jason, do Flyers fans feel like They're still paying for the sins of the 70s, quote unquote. This was a win. This was a win for the Philadelphia Eagles fan base, that this play that the Eagles do run better than anybody gets to stick around. And that, that like I mentioned earlier, it's a win for justice everywhere. That's basically what it comes down to.
Here's the fact of the matter is, let's put this in tangible terms. This is like the Eagles adding a game and a half to their win total, because it could win them a game because they're so good at it. Like, I believe that the Tush Push has won them probably over the last 2 years, 3 games, because of the effectiveness of that play.
Sure, keep drives going.
Yeah, you keep drives going. It's first and 8 basically, because they're so good at this play, and other teams haven't been able to duplicate it. So it is an advantage. So they maintain the advantage that they have of being able to run this play, and despite all these other teams trying to take this weapon away, this play, they weren't able to do it. So that's a huge win for the Eagles going into the season, because as far as I know, most of that offensive line is still intact. Cam Jurgens still going to be the center and performed it well coming in for Jason Kelce last year. Yeah. And Jalen Hurts can still squat 600 pounds. Yeah. So Tush Push moves on.
See, now we need to find out. We need to know. This needs to come out. I doubt it will, but I'd love to know. Who were the 10 teams or owners that voted against it, and who were maybe the 2 that kept it in favor of the Eagles? Like, there had to be some swing votes there that they thought they were going to get to 24 and they weren't able to. Like, there was 2 votes that went the Eagles' way and not the way of the Packers. Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to know. You always find out that, like, that dopey sports writer, baseball writer, that didn't have Derek Jeter on his ballot. Like, all that stuff always comes out. Well, I want to know about this. This is more important to me. I want to know, who are the 2 teams we need to, like, maybe thank for this?
Yeah, there should be some transparency in the vote. Yeah.
Like, do you think the Washington, Dallas, and the Giants all voted for it?
I imagine they voted against it. They got to see the Eagles twice.
You would think. You would think, right?
Yeah, but the person who voted from their organization ownership, did they say, look, in good conscience, I can't vote against this because the evidence isn't there?
Yeah, but like Green Bay, Buffalo, Washington, the Giants, and Dallas, there's 5. Okay, I could probably guarantee that they voted against it. If you're Washington, you can't have voted for this. You got to, like you said, got to face them twice. They're the team you're trying to knock off the mountain kind of thing. This would hurt them in a way. So you got to vote against it, right? Well, who are the other 5?
Well, if I'm those teams, I'm looking at my quarterback and going, is he powerful enough? And I'm figuring out a way to
run it yourself.
Yes. Yeah. That's what they should be worried about, is figuring out how to do it, not how to get rid of it because one team has perfected it.
Right. Yeah.
I think like CNN and all the news outlets love reporting on the Tush Push simply because you love hearing like stuffy anchors say Tush Push.
Have to say Tush.
Yeah, like I wish Tom Brokaw was still in the business, Harry.
Geez. I knew this was coming.
NBC Nightly News, the Tush Push remains. That would be great. The old Ted Koppel on the Tush Push.
I think he used that. I think Tom Brokaw used that in his book about the greatest generation.
Yeah. Yes.
They pushed across the Rhine to get into Germany.
Used the Tush Push in the Battle of Gaul.
The Battle of the Bulge or whatever. Yes.
When Patton went to Bastogne and said, Tush Push into Foy. Anyway, sorry. One more thing. So Harry, I think you had it right. It was 22 votes. Keep the Tush Push.
Yeah.
10 votes. Don't keep the Tush Push. Ban the Tush Push. That's a drop, if I'm not mistaken, from the numbers a month and a half ago at the original NFL owners meetings. So I guess Jason Kelce did his work out there.
So more are in favor. We're in favor of it this time than last time. You're saying?
I believe that's the case. I believe that's the case because I think it was 19 votes to keep last time, and that jumped up to 22.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, it looked like a fait accompli going into it in a lot of ways that it was going to be banned, but
yeah, right,
it happened.
And to your point, Jason, earlier about it winning the Eagles, maybe 3 games you said over the last couple of years here.
Yeah.
Here's the greatest selling point on why it's such a spectacular play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And this goes down as maybe one of the best things ever said by Nick Sirianni. Of all the things that he says, this is one of the best things. The fact that the Philadelphia Eagles never faced a 1st and 10. they never face a 1st and 10. They only face a 1st and 8 or a 1st and 9 because of how good they are at running this play. Like, that is a ballsy thing to say. How everybody else starts, we don't start. We know if we get to a 4th and 1, yeah, we got this. We got an 84% chance of converting that 4th and 1 just by going up there and pushing at the middle of the line of scrimmage. That's a pretty great thing for the Philadelphia Eagles to have in their back pocket. Look, we're going to be talking about this throughout the show. We're going to go and look at the comments a little bit later. There's a couple other things we want to get into today. Harry, you had mentioned before the show that we barely got into the Joe Douglas discussion because at the time we did the show previously, earlier in the week, Monday, the news had come out about Nick Sirianni signing his extension, which, by the way, we still don't know the numbers. All we know is still multi-year deal. Yeah. One local reporter put out a number, but it was very vague. We'll break that down a little bit later in the show. And also, Jalen Hurts, fellas, I don't know where you were yesterday. What were you doing at, I think it was 1:49 p.m. yesterday afternoon? Harry, do you know where you were?
At 1:49, I believe I was getting my hair cut.
I cannot relate. Jason and I cannot relate.
Yeah, I thought you were teeing off on 7, huh?
No, that was at 3 o'clock I teed off.
Oh, a little twilight action?
Yeah, 3. I finished about 6:20 yesterday.
All right.
Yeah. Perfect Jason, time for what were you doing after the round?
Oh, yeah.
Jason, what were you doing at 1:49 yesterday afternoon?
I have no clue.
Probably sleeping.
That's a safe bet. Yeah. Okay. Maybe taking the first of multiple naps in the day, which is a big thing when you're dealing with what I'm dealing with. So
sure.
Perhaps taking it for a little shutdown, as we call it.
Well, I just want you to let you know, at 1:49 yesterday afternoon, Jalen Hurts uttered his first keep the main thing of the 2025 season. Happy New Year, folks. It's officially the 2025 season. We got our first keep the main thing. And Jalen even had a new catchphrase that he unleashed on the people yesterday during his press conference. We'll get to that. Nick Sirianni's comments about what it takes to repeat. Also, Jalen Hurts' comments on what it takes to repeat. And Jordan Mailata on the Tush Push, as well as having his head coaches back when it comes to his return for a multi-year deal in Philadelphia. That's when we return. This is Locked On Eagles Squad podcast. We'll get into all that and more when we're back after this.
All right. Let me tell you about LinkedIn. Well, you got LinkedIn does it all for you. It's today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And as a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5 o'clock. No. You didn't sign up for that. You work 24/7. Your business is always on your mind, which means that when it's time to hire, you need a partner that's going to work just as hard as you do. And that's where LinkedIn comes in. They really help you out. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post a job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. So it makes it really easy to do. It's working smarter, not harder. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. Now, here's the pro tip. Adding the hashtag hiring, so hashtag the number sign hiring, framed to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. That'll help you out. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. So again, work smarter, not harder. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. And you can post your job for free. LinkedIn job /lockedonnfl, and that'll get it all taken care of for you. So check it out on linkedin.com. Terms and conditions do apply.
Now, this is where it gets confusing, everybody. Welcome back, Locked On Eagles Squad podcast. So, Alex Brooks Media. Hey, Alex, I believe it's the other way around because they needed 24 votes to ban it. They got 22. So, this is where it gets
2/3.
Right. According to NFL.com, this is what's on NFL.com right now. Green Bay proposal fell 2 votes shy of the necessary 24-vote threshold to ratify for 10 teams voting against the ban. So with 10 teams voting against the ban, according to Ian Rappaport. So it did go up. They did whip up more votes and were 2 votes shy of the necessary 24 votes. So it became a lot closer than it was. Now, I don't know what it takes. Do they get to – is this like the Supreme Court where they could just keep running it up the flagpole until they get what they want out of it. But
yeah, possibly. So
according
you're
to
saying
NFL.com,
there were 22 against, in other words, and they needed 24. So only 10 voted for it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha.
10 teams
Thank you,
voting
Alex
against the ban. Yes. All
okay.
Right. That was my original thought when I saw Shefty's tweet, because I thought it would have been odd that they took time to get more votes, but lost votes.
Well, how many did you say they had after the first time? 19?
19.
They had 19, so they got 5 more teams to get on board. Or I'm sorry.
They
needed
needed
3
5.
more votes.
They only got 3.
Yeah, they needed
5. They got 3.
Okay.
That's the question: is when can they vote on this again? Is it every offseason? The rules.
Well, if somebody gets hurt this season, they're definitely going to vote on it again.
Oh,
You can guarantee that.
I mean, like the tush push should have a term like the presidency, like 4 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We should have term limits for everything. I agree.
Right.
I agree, Harry.
Yes.
Well, you can get, the crusty old timepieces out at times when you need to get them out. But yeah, like this should have, immunity from being attacked, the tush push, for at least a couple of years.
There's a great post here on Reddit, College Football's X account. This proposal was the most cowardly move in organized football since the D3 MIAC kicked out St. Thomas for being too good. Any team that voted for it should lose their first-round pick next year for the fundamental lack of competitive spirit.
Yeah.
I agree. It should go to the Eagles. It should go to the Eagles. Yeah. That along with cash considerations. That's what I'm saying.
If we can't stop it, get rid of it. It was their mentality. Why don't you learn how to stop it so the Eagles stopped doing it? If it wasn't successful, they wouldn't use it.
What do we? Yeah,
figure out a way to stop it.
I'm still on the thought of what are we even talking about? Like, why is this a discussion? This is why are we even talking about this? Fellas, the Eagles actually addressed the media yesterday. Well, 4 of them did. Nick Sirianni addressed the media. Mum was the word on the contract, really. Jalen Hurts addressed the media. A.J. Brown had a press conference, as did Jordan Mailata. Now, I want to start because Sirianni really didn't give much other than, got to keep paying attention to detail if you want to repeat, and you got to keep on adding wrinkles. I love that word, adding wrinkles to the offense. That's what Kevin Patullo is going to be charged with, But
KP, he's known as KP now.
Yeah.
I figured
KP.
out. Yeah.
So listen to that, and then I listened to Jalen Hurts. Now I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy. You guys have heard me talk about the Eagles quarterback and how much I appreciate him and all that. But yesterday, not only did he unleash an all new, keep the main thing, he also debuted a new phrase.
Yeah,
and this was how he's. What's that?
3 words, right?
3 words.
Yeah.
Decode, detect, and correct.
Correct. Okay. Yes.
So this is in
detect and correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Decode, detect, and correct. This is what it takes to get back to a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. In other words, how does he not rest on his laurels? Just stare at his Super Bowl trophy and Super Bowl MVP trophies, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And just concentrate on getting back to the promised land. I totally understand that Jalen Hurts often speaks in motivational posters that were like on your high school guidance counselor's office door. Like, I get it. All right. But there are people in this city that have come through the sports ranks of the city that we look at and we go, disingenuous. This guy's a joke. This guy's a snake oil salesman. This guy's a carnival barker. And we just go, get out of here. Whether it's Chip Kelly, Gabe Kapler had a lot of that in him with the fans in Philadelphia. Yeah. That's right. Was he on your bingo card today?
Yeah.
But I get the sense that Jalen Hurts really, he doesn't just say this. Like, it's not, for me, it's not just him reading lines. Like, this is firmly what he believed. It's not LeBron James faking that he's reading Catcher in the Rye or whatever. Yeah. This is the real deal. Like, if you were to read this without knowing the context or anything like this, I think it would be an eye roll. But when you follow Jalen Hurts and listen to him, I feel like this is something that he really, truly lives by. Jason, you knew the words there. Harry, you knew the 3 words there. What do you make of decode? I'm sorry. Yeah, decode, detect, and correct.
To me, it's I'm trying to figure it out why they're in the order they're in. Why is Decode first?
Okay, that's good. Let's decode this. Let's
you would think detect would be first.
Yeah, detect would be find the problem, figure out the problem, and then correct,
and then fix the problem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I agree. We got a little Dan Brown going on here. We got to decode this. You know what I mean? We got to Da Vinci Code, the Hertz code. I don't know. Decode, I guess, means watch the film.
Yeah, and just identify the issues. Mm-hmm. Decode is the phase of where you're trying to figure out what went wrong, or what you can exploit. And then I get maybe in that sense, you could use detect first, find out something that can be exploited, figure out how to exploit it, and make the corrections to exploit it.
Right. Find out what you can do better.
Yeah.
And figure out how to be better, and then fix it.
And find the weaknesses too. The detect is about finding a weakness in your opposition, something that you can exploit. It's all a little too cerebral when it comes to football. Like, this is a lot to like. I mean, I imagine some guys when Nick Sirianni explains this in training camp in one of their meetings are going to be glazed over. Like, I don't have time to decode, detect, and correct when the quarterback drops back and my safety doesn't have over the top coverage. I got to just react and play. But I get the notion of what he's trying to do. And what he's trying to do, basically, it's really simple. It's just dialing his football team into the details, because the details in pro sports are what matters. It's the little things that mean big consequences. So he's trying to keep his team dialed into the little things, not letting anything slip, because the moment you start letting little things slip, everything slips. So I think this is just a way to reterm something to keep the focus of his football team on the details of the game and the little things that matter so much. Is it brilliant? We'll see. If they're all wearing shirts that say decode, detect, correct in training camp, then we'll know. But it is like a hashtag, or it's like speaking in hashtags. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think he even added another word. If you listened a little bit longer and to what he was talking about, he said refine also. So we might be able to make this a 4-word thing. Oh boy! Decode, detect, correct, and refine. I mean, when you're starting to refine things like that means you're already really good. But now you're even trying. You're going to filter the vodka a 7th time. It's already filtered 6 times, but we're going to refine this stuff one more time.
Refine it one more than everybody else.
Right.
Make us
so we can put it on the bottle, and it's 7 times refined.
Yeah.
Here's what I like about it, and it first off, I do kind of picture Jalen Hurts in like an office with papers all over the place and the red string going from one paper to another.
Oh, it's up on the board. It's up on the board.
It's up on the
wall.
board. Yeah. He's pinning the red pins and the yarn, connecting all the things. And I really get the sense from this Eagles team, even right after they won the Super Bowl, and literally Jalen Hurts, let's not forget, was standing at his locker at the NovaCare Complex a couple of days after they won the Super Bowl. And he was talking about winning the Super Bowl as if it was an inconvenience to his off-season regimen, which again, I find genuine. I think that really is how he is built.
Yeah.
But I never heard a quarterback say, well, I would be working out already if I wasn't winning the Super Bowl.
I had to go to this parade for winning.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Backwards Kango hat and a cigar, When I was listening to this yesterday, I got the sense from Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts that they, like most people, I think, are well aware that it is extremely difficult to win a Super Bowl, as they found out in their first Super Bowl trip. Then they win a Super Bowl with ease over the Kansas City Chiefs, and now they are running it back essentially with their entire offense minus their right guard, which I think we all feel pretty confident whoever that's going to be, it's still going to be a player performing at a high level with Jeff Stoutland and the guys around him. So you're running it back in that way. So what I get out of the whole thing about if you're Nick Sirianni adding wrinkles, making sure that you're continuing to grow the offense, you're dressing up plays differently. That was another quote from Sirianni. Or whether you're decoding, detecting, and refining. All right, we'll jump to that one. The Eagles understand what's in front of them. There's a big sign on their back right now about Super Bowl champions, and everyone's going to be gunning for them. there's going to be even more teams now, maybe even because of a little bit of a grudge with this tush push, that they want to stick it to the Eagles and put them in a spot where they can't run that play. And I would normally think that that's a farce, but think about all the people that have just voted against this rule. Like, you just barely squeaked it by. So I look at it like the Eagles understand that it's extremely difficult to win a Super Bowl. It's even harder to win back-to-back Super Bowls, obviously. How do we refresh things with this offense, with this team in general, to make sure we get back to that same promised land that we were at a year ago without taking our eye off the ball? It's absolutely going to be harder because teams are gunning for you more than ever.
Right. Yeah, but you got to come up with a new slogan and a new mantra, and that's what Jalen Hurts already has done.
Can't get complacent.
You know what I mean? We got a new mantra.
Yeah, like it's easy to get to the. It's not easy, but you get to the top, but to stay at the top is the really difficult part. That's why you look at teams like Kansas City that were able to get there and stay there for a period of time. Yeah, and you go, I mean, that's something really special. Especially
so
when
their quarterback, and that's how they did it. That and the head coach,
and that's how Tom Brady did it too. And you look at those teams; they're all-time great teams because they got to the top and they stayed at the top when 31 other teams were all shooting arrows at them, trying to knock them off. That's the tricky thing to do. And look, sometimes I think you have to bring like little gimmicks into it. Because that's what keeps it fresh for the player.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah. To avoid complacency, you got to come up with sometimes that, frankly, they're cheesy sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've seen this in all sports where you go, like the players and the coach will all be repeating some phrase. And you're like, that is cheesy as hell. But if it works, who gives a damn? Yeah. Whatever you guys got to do to not get complacent and stay at the top, then I don't care if it's cheesy if it works.
Yeah.
So I think that this is an effort to do that. And that process starts right now in the summer. It does. Well, so everybody comes in ready to go.
Speaking of that, I noticed Mailata was wearing a T-shirt, and the only reason I really noticed is he made mention of it to the media. It said, "Let's talk outside," and I didn't know. Did that go over my head, or do you know what he's speaking of there?
That sounds. I mean, I really don't mean this as the cliche, but that sounded like fighting words. That sounded like, let's talk. Hey, why don't we talk outside?
I'm not going to break any tables outside when we fight.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
that's what that sounded like to me. But
is he going to sing Chris Stapleton to me outside?
Yes, he is. Yes, Tennessee whiskey apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
7 times filtered.
When you hear that, okay, let's go back to that phrase again. What do you think was decoded? What do you think was detected? What do you think is going to be corrected? So he did the let's call it what it is. I think the simplest form of saying it is they did their self-evaluation. All right. The quarterback, head coach, they did their self-evaluation. What are they correcting? What did they detect? Because the vibe I got from Jalen Hurts was that the passing game has to be ready in the upcoming season. Because as we've been talking about throughout the offseason, what has to change? Hey, look, I would love to give Saquon the ball 500 times next year if I thought he wasn't going to have wear and tear, if I thought he wasn't going to get tired, if I thought that that's something you could plausibly do because it's so dominant. It's like, playing a video game with the endurance off or stamina off. Just keep running that play over and over again.
You just keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's not real life, okay?
Yeah.
So I think what he's talking about refining is the Eagles passing game. And to reiterate, I don't want them to be the number one passing team in the NFL, nor do I need them to be. I want Saquon Barkley to be just as dominant as he was last year, but I don't think it really makes a hell of a lot of sense to continue to give him the ball for a second straight year over 480 times like they did last year. So, right. So I don't know if you guys get the same vibe or not. The vibe I get is that the passing game needs to be ready to at least be a middle-of-the-road passing attack in the upcoming season.
I agree that the passing attack, I don't think the statement is reflective upon last year, though. I think it's all looking forward.
Okay.
I think it is. The decode is let's notice our weaknesses immediately so we can decode them, and refine them and make them not a weakness to prevent. I think they put last year in the rear view. But I agree. They have to go into this year. The passing game is going to be a bigger piece of the pie. It has to be.
Well, I mean, what weakness do they really have on offense? I mean, let's decode. What is it? Because I really can't find one.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can say that they didn't pass the ball enough, but they didn't need to.
Well, they didn't need to. They had to run. I mean, his attempts went from about 31 the year prior to 25 last year per
That's
game.
significant.
Attempts. That's a big drop off. But when you had 26 in the backfield, capable of ripping off a 60-yarder at any moment, I mean, that's why you do that. So I understand that. Is that what they're trying to do? Are they trying to get that yards or attempts up to closer to 30 this year? Maybe that's the case, but I don't think that's a weakness.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's just it's part of the kind of the lifestyle, the life change of this offense. It's going to have to be different because you can't just continue to give the running back the ball 480 times and expect him to be as effective.
Right.
There's going to be drop off there if that happens, and then you're just kind of mindlessly being a robot and going, well, this worked in 2024, so it has to work now. That's not necessarily true. So if you can add that wrinkle of throwing the ball, that's going to make the runs for Saquon more effective because of the threat of the pass, and you can carve teams up that way. Now you're even a more dangerous team because look, they had multiple ways of beating you last year, although Saquon was the preferred method of extracting yardage. This year, it may be a little bit more balanced where the passing attack leads the way on certain occasions over Saquon, which makes you even less predictable. Predictability is what a defense loves. They love knowing what you're going to do. When you're unpredictable, they hate it. Defending it with an unpredictable offense is hell because you don't know where to go. And what to stop. So that's a big part.
And this team needs to figure out how to tweak without changing. Like that's what I think the challenge is here.
That's a good way of putting it.
And that's why I was saying episode or two ago, like I'm looking at wide receiver number 3 and 4 here, especially 3, to really sort of step up a little bit and take ownership of a little bit more of this offense, and also the running back outside of Saquon. Remember, there's no more Gainwell. Is Shipley going to be that guy? To take a couple of 4 or 5 receptions per game, or at least attempts, because Gainwell was always good for a couple of catches per game.
Yeah, swing out of the backfield.
Yeah. AJ Dillon, how big is his role going to be? Will his health allow him to take whatever that role is? So those are the kind of things that I sort of look at. Will you be able to get behind Goddard the same type of play, that you got from your number 2 tight ends?
Calcaterra,
number 2 tight end, yeah.
Well, the other thing too is if AJ Dillon's not cutting it, who does Howie go out and get in season? Because we've seen that.
Oh yeah, especially at that position. You
Jay,
right? Yeah.
Well, interesting segue, because one of the guys that actually helped get Jay Ajayi here is now back in the Eagles front office, and Joe Douglas.
Yeah,
we barely reacted to that. Let's talk about Joe Douglas. When we return, we're going to get into the Eagles front office because they've lost 2 scouts in the front office this offseason, and they just gained back a familiar name in Joe Douglas. Talk about that when we return. This is a quick blink, gentlemen. And just like that, we're back.
Wow.
So Joe Douglas, after, 6 years it ended up being as the general manager of the New York Jets,
he was in his 7th year. He was in his 7th year when he got let go.
Poor man. Poor man.
Yep.
He's back. He's back in on South Broad Street, Broad and Patterson down there, and he's back in the NovaCare Complex as a senior scout with the Philadelphia Eagles, working again under Howie Roseman. He helped bring Alshon Jeffrey here after he had a long career in Baltimore. Joe Douglas in Baltimore, 1 year in Chicago. Then he helped bring in Jay Ajayi for that Super Bowl run. Obviously pivotal in the offseason. Guys were added to this team like Chris Long, LeGarrette Blount, undrafted free agent Corey Clement was brought into the squad as well. Like, did a wonderful job helping the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, obviously, that year, and winning the Super Bowl that year. I don't know how this all of a sudden came about without the idea of this was always going to happen. And the biggest reason I think this was always going to happen was because who the hell, gentlemen, in their right mind takes Hassan Reddick off the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles when all Hassan Reddick wanted the entire time was a new deal, wasn't going to get it in Philadelphia, and Joe Douglas goes, yeah, sure, we'll take him. And that ends up being Hassan Reddick in Japan, I think it was, in a white robe and fuzzy slippers, not playing for the New York Jets. That doesn't happen, I don't think, unless there's some kind of deal. Hey, look, I'm going to get fired from this job, Howie. I'll do whatever. Just make sure I get a job back on your staff. Yeah, 100%, right. Man. And then next thing you know, he's back.
Yeah, that's good. Howie.
What I need
Roseman,
you to,
by the way.
See, what you're going to need to do here is you're going to need to take this guy off my hands and the nut of the salary, and we'll have a nice spot for you, because I'm going to suffer some attrition in my front office after we win the Super Bowl.
Right.
And you can slide back in. We'll build you back up to you can get another GM job and fail. Remember when he left, everybody thought, oh, no. This is really the brains behind Howie Roseman.
Right.
That's what they said. I mean, Joe Douglas was this wonderkin. Yeah. And look, I don't know that anybody can succeed with the Jets with how dysfunctional they are as a franchise. Right. So I'm not going to judge him on that. But getting him back, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago about losing some scouts and stuff in the front office, and can the Eagles overcome it? Well, you bring in an old face that's already worked there and worked well with him, and Joe Douglas, and he comes right back into the fold. So, good general managing once again by Howie Roseman, not letting some attrition really hurt the organization in any way. Maybe they're even upgraded to a bit with Joe Douglas back.
Yeah, well, I mean, Howie Roseman made him photocopy his notes and leave them with Howie Roseman before he left for New York, okay? I think we can pretty much surmise that. Joe Douglas is back in GM rehab right now. This is what happened, like with Saban would always bring these forlorn head coaches, former offensive coordinators elsewhere that had fallen on hard times. He'd bring them into the fold, build them up with all the talent there at Alabama, and boom, then they get another job. The next thing you know, they're the head coach at Texas. This kind of stuff. It happened for many years with Saban. Maybe that's what we're seeing here with Howie Roseman. They're a quarterback factory and a GM rehab clinic. And Joe Douglas being back here makes me feel very good, because this team was successful with that duo doing the scouting and the drafting and all that. And never mind the 7-9, the 2-14, the 4-13, 2 7-10s, a 5-12, and a 3-8, totaling 35-76. I don't think I could have done any better, because it's the New York Jets, and that's what the New York Jets do. They lose at an astronomical rate, despite what they bring in. They're a garbage franchise. They will probably continue to be a garbage franchise, no matter who brings. They could bring Lombardi out of the grave, and they'd lose. Okay, because they're the Jets.
Yeah, they're total dysfunction.
Yes, I don't blame Joe Douglas for one thing that happened up there.
No. The Eagles are like LinkedIn jobs, which I just talked about. Every coordinator that comes in gets promoted somewhere else to a head coaching gig. I mean, it's ridiculous. They literally are. They're the pad before, the dream job. You come in there, you be a coordinator for only a year, mind you, and then you get the Arizona job, where you come in, you end up with a head coaching job. That's what they do. They like rehab guys and spit them back out to get head jobs somewhere else. And if they fail, they come back and they do it again.
Right.
Kingmakers. That's what they are. The kingmakers.
I was a kingmaker.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, third round quarterback pick, it will turn you into a king, and we'll end up trading you for a first or something.
Yeah.
Crazy.
GM factory. Yeah. The thing with Joe Douglas is also interesting is the background. Yeah, he worked for Howie. Yes, he won a Super Bowl here in Philadelphia. Ozzie Newsome for 13 years in Baltimore? That's the guy that he was working under there. Like you can only get better through osmosis, learning from guys like that. Yeah. And then you come back here to the Philadelphia Eagles front office to help them along the way. If you're telling me you're trading, hey, I don't know, Anthony Patch could come down and sit next to me at the bar. I have no idea who he is. Okay. But I can only think you're upgrading by adding Joe Douglas into the fray even though you lost two different guys in the front office. I think the one position is certainly an upgrade. And he kind of trusts in Howie. Again, here we go. In Howie we trust. To rebuild that, I mean, not even that has to rebuild it, but retool that front office with guys that are going to help him in his efforts. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
it's great.
Yep.
Refine.
Decode. Refining. Well, I mean, that's the thing. And it was easy to pick on Howie for many years, but the fact of the matter and the resume speaks for itself now. You have to trust in him because he's done a hell of a job. He really has. And it's not just the job that he does, it's the staff that he assembles and how he delegates and lets them empower themselves across the board with his head coach and his coordinators, with his scouts, with his people, trusted advisors. They're a well-oiled machine. Like I said this earlier in the offseason, Jeff Lurie caught a lot of flack for a lot of years using the term the gold standard. And at the time, they were the tinfoil standard. They didn't have any winning to show for it. They are one of those teams that is a gold standard team now, the way they operate, not just as a football team, but as a business entity, as a big influence on the city and our local community, the way they carry themselves. They are the gold standard. They seem to hit on every little element of responsibility of being a professional football team in a major market. And you got to give credit to Jeff Lurie, and Howie Roseman's a big part of it. And Joe Douglas back in the mix. It doesn't weaken them. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and who was that one? Who was the one free agent that was the bust? He came from the Jets, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Oh, why am I blanking? Not Hunt.
Was it? I was thinking it was Hunt too, but it's not. He
Huff,
came from
Bryce
the
Huff.
Jets. Huff.
Bryce Huff. Yeah.
Jets.
Yeah, we can't even remember his name.
No, exactly.
Could Joe Douglas have taken him back potentially before he came back to Philadelphia? That would have been the last. That would have been the last. Hey, before I'm out of here, we're gonna get Bryce Huff back.
Who were the last really good players for the Jets? Like Chad Pennington.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Martin, the running back, was terrific.
Curtis Martin.
Yeah.
Curtis Martin.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, you had some decent receivers there for
Merrill Revis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, Revis
The one cornerback they got there now is really good too.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce, yeah, he's really good.
But that team, I mean, you can't even really don't have many memorable players over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have memorable players over a 20-year period, like how bad were you?
Yeah, I mean, Mekhi Becton flunked out of the Jets, and look what Stoutland made him into.
Yeah, he retooled them, refined them.
Right. Well, he decoded him first, gentlemen.
Right, exactly.
He decoded, and he went, "Oh, this is a guard. This isn't a tackle. What are we doing here?"
I mean, talk about no bigger decoding than Zach Bond with Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that's a decode, detect, and refine right there.
Yeah.
The Fangio code. I'd read that book. I'd read that.
That would be good.
All right. I need to float this out to you guys because I know we threw this out last show when the news broke about Nick Sirianni. Ben Johnson signed a deal with the Chicago Bears for $13 million a year. Mm-hmm. Sean Payton's getting $18 million a year from the Denver Broncos. There was a report, and I'll give him credit, Howard Eskin, all right, who put it out there saying he was told.
You're on WIP.
So what's your point? That was great. That'll be the promo of the show. Just that little snippet right there. It is genius. Howard said that the deal for Nick Sirianni per year, gentlemen, quote, is nicely past $10 million.
Doesn't sound like it's anywhere near 18 or 19.
What the hell is nicely past $10 million?
Wow.
Nicely past would be 19.9.
Yes. What is that? Is that 11.5 million? Is that 12 million?
Sounds like 12 million to me.
That does sound like it's that does sound like it's less than Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
and it's below 15.
It does sound like that.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, in addition to listening to Sirianni when he was asked, how long's the deal? He wouldn't give up that either. No. So is it like multi-year? Could be 2 years. That's multi-year.
3 year, like basically 2 years guaranteed because the third year you never want a coach going into a lame duck year.
Right.
So that could be a 3-year deal where it's a 2-year contract and you earn your next one with a year to go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why so cryptic? I mean, what's the big deal?
I mean, look, he's had success. Should he get more than Sean Payton? Sean Payton's got a longer resume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he doesn't get to that level, but he should be at 15.
That's what I said. Yeah.
He should be 15. 3 mil less than Payton feels about right to me.
I say he's been here 4 years. You've been in the playoffs every year with him. You've won a Super Bowl, obviously.
And went to
another. I'm shocked that it's not already out. That it's with this report being nicely passed. Now that puts me more, Harry, in your range of the $15 million deal. Certainly not the $18 million deal or $19 million deal that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But let's break it down. Everything in the professional world comes down to what? The budget, right? It comes down to the money. All right, you have a head coach that ain't calling plays, so you got to pay an offensive coordinator. They're not doing that in this situation. However, you got to be paying Vic Fangio a nice hefty sum to be your defensive coordinator, especially when he intentionally took this gig to be back in Philadelphia and back to his family. Maybe there was a little bit of a discount there, but a guy that's been around the league as long as he has, I'm sure he's getting top dollar. Then you also look at the fact that you're paying Jeff Stoutland something close to coordinator money. So even though you're saving money most likely with Kevin Patullo, KP, you're still paying Jeff Stoutland. So is this all part of the distribution of coaching dollars? If it's only $12 million, if it's less than Ben Johnson, that is a crime. If it's less than Sean Payton, okay, I kind of get it. I don't like it, but I kind of get it.
Yeah.
The allocation of dollars is still a thing no matter what company it is, even if it's in the NFL, even if it's the Philadelphia Eagles. But it does shock me that these numbers, haven't come out yet. And it would shock me also if he was getting less than Ben Johnson's getting right now in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny because these NFL teams, they do have budgets, even though essentially owning an NFL team is like owning a mint, where you're printing money. I mean, the amount of money that they bring in, we see the ratings and we see the revenue of the NFL. It's just so off the charts. It's incredible. But there is still a budget you got to adhere to. And like you bring up Stoutland, like an offensive line coach for another team is making $65,000. He's probably making $1 million. You know what I mean? Because you can't lose him. Because of the effect he has on this team. And look, he's turned himself into such a commodity at this point. Yeah. Going back to Trey Thomas and all those guys that still swear by him, and John Runyon. I mean, Trey used to talk about him when we worked with him, Harry, all the time about the way he coaches the fundamentals of the position, and we know how important it is. So, yeah, maybe that's part of it. I mean, to me, I don't have a salary cap for the head coach. If I'm in that situation, I mean, it's an area that's not salary capped by the league, and I'm doing everything to keep that guy here, and I don't think Sirianni wants to go anywhere. But you got to get more than Ben Johnson.
Yeah, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I have no problem giving up a little bit of my change to keep Jeff Stoutland happy and to keep him here for what he has done. But as far as the coordinators go, especially the offensive coordinator, I would take that as, hey, that's because of me. I provide the I set the standard and the culture here. And these guys, they might call the plays, but they still report to me. And that's, a lot of my doing is the management and so forth, and providing that growth for these guys to go out and get other jobs. So I would use that as a positive. And if he's not making more than Ben Johnson is, he needs a new agent. Okay, he needs to get out of CAA and call Bob Lamont or whatever the heck his name is, the guy that got Andy Reid all that money, and he's got like 1 million coaches. How is he not represented by that guy anyway?
Yeah,
seriously.
Well, I think there's a big thing that, and I still believe this. Now, winning a Super Bowl is huge, obviously, but I still believe that the number one prerequisite to being the Philadelphia Eagles head coach is you have to play nice with others. I think Jeffrey Lurie called it emotional intelligence. Yeah. You have to let Jeffrey Lurie feel like he owns the team. Mm-hmm. You have to let Howie Roseman work his magic, and you have to be on board with all of that.
That would be the hardest part for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to sit next to Jeff on the airplane and validate his football opinions on times when they're probably awful.
And let's not forget, a year ago, gentlemen, we're listening to Nick Sirianni talk about how, the defensive coordinator is going to be completely in charge of the defense, and the offensive coordinator is going to be completely in charge of the offense. And it's like, whoa, Nick. You were in charge of the offense. I thought you were at least doing game planning while somebody else called plays. No. So then what do? I'm the head coach. Yes, define that, because that seems to be a fluid situation with you as a head coach, whether you're calling plays or downshifting to just game planning or now downshifting to just popping in a defensive backs meeting. I don't know. Maybe they got the good snacks in there. I don't know.
Manages all of it.
But yeah, he's supposed to oversee it all. It would look far more impressive if that's how he started out his career.
Right.
And I think, Harry, you made the point on Monday, I think.
Yeah.
About, maybe he doesn't get the job if he starts out saying, I'm just going to oversee everything.
Right. I'm a CEO from day one.
Right.
Yeah. Because he didn't have enough of a resume. I think to pull that off. Now, the next place he goes, he could do that.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's doing here. But so you're saying that maybe now that we don't know the numbers and, that Eskin's report that it's, it's more than 10 or a good bit more than 10.
Nicely past 10.
Nicely past 10, to quote Howard. Maybe you're sitting there thinking like, hey, he doesn't do enough to warrant the $15 to $18 million a year in Jeffrey Lurie's mind.
Million, you got to start cleaning around here. Yeah. Pick up a mop. You got time to lean. You got time to clean.
All right. There's
grab a weapon and stand at post.
Otherwise, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to. Who's gonna do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg.
Yeah.
Damn, now I would have to go back and watch A Few Good Men because it's been a minute since I've seen it. Outside of just clips that come up in my algo, you know what I'm saying?
Am I clear?
Yes,
crystal.
When we return after this quick little hit here, Jordan Mailata spoke at length about something that does make Nick Sirianni special, and I did find this interesting because I've never heard players speak like that, like so personal about a head coach. I've heard players talk about getting the best out of us and all that stuff, but it sounds extra personal, especially when listening to Jordan Mailata talk about it yesterday. We'll get to that right after this. So, gentlemen, the bye week happens in week 5 of last year. The Eagles just got the brakes beat off them by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Avonte Maddox is still your slot corner. Jalen doesn't look particularly crisp. The running game hasn't gone exactly as you'd want it to do. You want this team to be more run-focused. And you're a 2-2 football team. Mm-hmm. Jalen's still turning the football over. He just had, Levante David knocked the ball out of his hand in Tampa. You go into the bye week, and you come out of the bye week, and all of a sudden, when mum was the word for Jalen Hurts when complimenting his head coach, Nick Sirianni, even when he was teed up just to say something nice about Nick Sirianni, he couldn't do it. Come out of the bye week, Nick's great. Nick and I got together on the same page. I love Nick. Nick's fantastic. We had a sleepover. We watched movies. We ate pizza. Jordan Mailata, open door policy. When Nick Sirianni walked in there, said we got to run the ball more. Lane Johnson, open door policy, got to run the ball more. They come out of that, they're running the ball more. Cooper DeJean is all of a sudden your slot corner, your nickel corner in this situation. All is right with the world. Eagles win 10 games in a row, and they look unstoppable, and they go on to win a Super Bowl. Jordan Mailata yesterday brought all that back when talking about Nick Sirianni and his new deal. He was asked about Nick Sirianni and the new deal, and he said, well, I mean, Nick just always puts himself first when it comes to blame and basically puts everybody else first when it comes to success. He has this communication with his team where he is willing to listen to them and change his ways of what he is doing is wrong. We have had guys, and I'll go to this name when I think about this particular thing all the time, and I hate to bring it up, but Chip Kelly. No, my way's right. I'm right. You're wrong. You just wait and see. I know what I'm doing. You don't know. Right. Nick Sirianni is the type of guy that come up with a game plan or come up with a strategy and then go, okay, maybe not. Maybe this was the wrong way to do it. And he learns that by listening to his players and the people around him. Now, maybe that is what makes him take a hit when it comes to pay. He doesn't get the upper echelon dollars. But I'll say this. It certainly seems to get his team rallying around him throughout a season. And I know it's only a 17-game season, but that's still a long season. It's still 6 months we're talking about here. Right. You got to keep the team's focus. You got to keep the team motivated throughout that entire time. If there's anything that Nick Sirianni does great, according to many of his players, most recently Jordan Mailata, reiterating this point, it's he listens to the people around him and he's willing to correct his mistakes after he decodes, detects, and corrects those mistakes.
To eventually refine.
There's
a couple ways to get the players to do whatever you want them to do. One of them is to hear them and let them have a seat at the table and a voice. And the other one is to protect them and take the blame when you can to deflect it off the players and give them all of the credit for all of the success, not grab it for yourself. And maybe, you got to read through it. Look, we watch the games. We know when the players screw up or the coach screws up and who should get the blame. But the players, they hear those things in those press conferences of a coach taking all the blame. Or they hear those things of a coach giving all the credit to the players when things go well. And look, even though the pro athletes, there's ego involved, and there's also insecurity that's involved when it comes to pro athletes. It was one of the things I was most shocked by when I got into this business and got to know some pro athletes, that there's insecurity for pro athletes. That was the most shocking thing to me. I'm thinking these guys are the best of the best, the 1% of 1% at the sport they play, and there's insecurity? That's crazy, but it's there. And when you can tap into those things to make them positives, they'll do anything you want them to do. That's how you get them. And Nick Sirianni knows how to do that. I think Doug Peterson knew how to do that as well, being a former player. And that's the thing that's shocking about Sirianni. He's not a former player, an NFL player, but he knew how to tap into those things to get the NFL player to die for you. And that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I think the whole idea, I think I heard Doug Peterson really say it first, was the self-scouting. He was the guy that I remember saying it about himself as a head coach. That was the first time I ever heard it. And I think that's what Nick Sirianni did after week 4. I think basically everybody did, coordinators, head coach, even the quarterback. The quarterback turned the ball over a bunch of times in those first 4 games, including 4 interceptions. After that, I think he threw 1 interception, and it was against Dallas a few weeks later, and just limited the turnover. He was much more, secure with the ball, and that was huge. I think everybody during that bye week went through sort of a self-evaluation and said we all need to improve. And it started with the head coach. I think he probably set the tone, and I think that's a really good aspect of what Nick Sirianni brings as far as his persona and the way he manages people.
Mm-hmm. Something was said at that bye week, Harry.
Yeah.
Because when they came back, they weren't a 2-2 football team anymore.
Yeah.
No,
they rattled off every bit. Great.
Yeah, looking more and more like a Super Bowl championship team. That's for damn sure. Fellas, it's the saddest time of the day when we end the Eagle Squad show. But before we do it,
Conte Partiro, it's time to say goodbye.
Comments.
Conte Partiro.
What in the world?
You don't know Conte Partiro by Andrea Bocelli, huh?
No.
It means time to say goodbye.
Okay.
And a little Sarah Brightman. Sprinkle a little Sarah Brightman in there.
Big fan.
Come on now. Voice of an angel. I mean, they're no John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, but they'll do. We still live in a tush push era. Renzo Rosario, what's up? I can see 22-10 because of language change. Language went against them. Okay, language change. All right, that's true. There we go.
Where's Jan Gorham?
Big Daddy, your mic is still on.
This is great. This is fantastic. Where's Jan Gorham?
We didn't have enough printer paper for her to continue to do the job.
Driving drunken nude.
It was in a font that was like 768 font, and it was like 16 sheets of paper taped together
for an update.
Is there a better drop in radio history than "No more misery for Barbaro"? He's dead.
Oh, that was terrific.
No more misery for Barbaro. He died.
That was terrific.
Don't shoot a dead horse. He's dead.
Wait. No, hold on. No, wait. The he died was Kirby Puckett.
That's right. Yeah.
Kirby Puckett. He died.
Oh man.
She was a strange bird too. Like she come back from vacation, be like, Jan, how was your vacation? I don't want to talk about that. That's personal.
Oh, jeez.
Who was the other one? Sue something. Wasn't there an
Sue Schilling?
Sue Schilling. Yes, another classic.
Oh, Sue.
Where's Bob Bombero when you need him? Reminding you to remember the time you spent listening, huh?
Oh my God.
Bob Bombero reminding you.
Yeah.
I still hear from Bob from time to time.
JP pointing out how the league failed in BAN the Tush Push, so that's pretty funny. Evil Stewie. Hello, Evil Stewie. Great name. Ravens and Lions sided with the Eagles. All right, there you go, boys.
Now, how does he know that?
Sirianni's going to know.
How does he know that?
Teams are going to go, they voted against you in the Tush Push. That's going to be in a pregame thing. So let's Tush Push the hell out of this team. They wanted to ban it.
It's going to be the last slide on Nick Sirianni's weekly team meeting. By the way, guys, last thing, these guys voted to ban the Tush Push, so we're going to run it 10 times in this game. You know what I mean?
And like Harry said, it's going to be plays 1 through 4 in the opening drive
against Green Bay on Monday Night Football. Yeah.
The only thing I'd love more is if the Eagles blow out the Packers, don't use the tush push at all. Tanner McKee comes in off the bench for the final drive, and they just run it with him once. They get a first down to extend the drive. That would be chef's kiss. That's Harry Mays. That's Jason Martinez. My name is Mark Farzetta. Louis DiBiase will be joining us later next week. Next week, when we get back to the Eagles Squad podcast, we had some great ideas floating around for you guys, including reliving. Harry, you were talking about this before. Reliving the year that was the 2024-2025 Philadelphia Eagles and how memorable it was. Some of the great games, some of the great plays. We'll be going through that. Maybe even game by game. We'll be breaking it down for you guys as the offseason rolls on until OTAs, until training camp, and through free agency as that continues as well. We want to make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Louis DiBiase has you covered each and every day for your Locked On Daily Eagles podcast. And also, make sure you guys, shameless plugs here, you guys are liking and subscribing to Locked On Eagles YouTube channel as well, where Jason and Harry will have you guys covered throughout the Eagles season when it comes to the postcasts here on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. I have you covered for your Locked On Phillies postcast on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. So we hope you guys are liking and subscribing to all things Locked On Sports across the nation. For Harry, for Jason, I'm Mark Farzetta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back with you guys next week. Harry, you got a vacation coming up. Hit them long and straight, friend.
Couple of days. Yep. We'll be back next week.
Couple of 3 days.
Yep.
There you go. There you go, Juan. There you go. Talk to you guys next week. See ya.